You're unbelievable, Amelia. You just had to mess everything up. Victoria's voice sliced through the warm hum of the restaurant, sharp as glass. Her fork clattered against porcelain as she crossed her arms, her glare drilling into me like a spotlight I never asked for. The chatter from nearby tables dimmed in my ears. All I could hear was the echo of her words, the thundering of my own pulse, and the rhythmic crash of waves outside the panoramic windows. Across from me, my father, Charles Ross, let out a long, heavy sigh, the kind of sigh that didn't just fill the air but pressed it down, reminding me of every time he'd been tired of me before. My mother, Evelyn, pursed her lips into that razor-thin line she wore whenever she wanted to look impartial but had already made her judgment. I dropped my gaze to my plate. The shrimp scampi had gone cold, the buttery sauce congealing at the edges. I couldn't taste it anymore, not with the familiar bitterness burning the back of my throat. My appetite vanished, swallowed whole by the familiar weight of their disappointment. My name is Amelia Ross, and I am 35 years old. And if there's one thing I've learned in those 35 years, it's that when something goes wrong, I will be the one blamed. Family drama? My fault. Dinner running late? My fault. Clouds ruining a picnic? Somehow, Evelyn Ross could probably tie that back to me too. But Victoria, my younger sister by 3 years, always walked away clean. She had a way of twisting the narrative so she looked like the victim, or worse, the star who had suffered through it all with grace. My mother called it charming. I called it exhausting. But exhaustion becomes background noise when you've been raised as the scapegoat. Tonight shouldn't have shocked me. I should have seen it coming, should have braced for it. Yet some fragile, hopeful part of me still believed this trip could be different. That belief shattered the moment Victoria's voice rose above the clink of silverware. The irony was that this entire trip had been my idea. 2 months ago, I suggested a family getaway. Something relaxing, something fun. A chance to reconnect. My parents jumped at the idea, especially my mom, who loved the thought of curated family memories she could show off in her holiday newsletters. "You're good at planning," she had said sweetly, sliding the responsibility onto me with practiced ease. "Why don't you take care of the details?" So I did. I spent hours combing through reviews, cross-checking travel blogs, and comparing resort packages. I booked us into a luxury seaside resort with glowing ratings. I scheduled dinners at the best restaurants in town, arranged activities, and even triple-checked confirmations. I thought if I made everything perfect, maybe this time my family would see me differently. But perfection is a fragile thing, and it crumbled before we even unpacked our bags. The first strike. On our first night, we arrived at the resort's exclusive seafood restaurant. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the ocean in gold as the sun slipped beneath the horizon. I imagined us sitting there together, relaxed and happy for once. Instead, the hostess smiled apologetically and said, "I'm sorry, but there's no reservation under the name Ross." I blinked. That can't be right. My fingers fumbled for my phone. I booked it weeks ago. "Perhaps under a different name?" the hostess suggested gently. I held out my phone, the glowing confirmation email proof of my diligence. But she shook her head. "I'm afraid the reservation was canceled, ma'am. And unfortunately, we're fully booked tonight." I felt my mother's eyes before I saw them. Sharp questioning. "Amelia, I thought you said you handled this." I did. My voice pitched higher, desperate. "Look, it's right here." "Then why are we standing here with nowhere to sit?" Victoria cut in, her tone honeyed with sarcasm. Her smile was thin and triumphant. "Great job, Amelia." The restaurant was full. There was nothing they could do. So we trudged down the street to a casual diner with sticky booths and flickering neon lights. And Victoria made sure every sigh, every pointed glance, every muttered remark reinforced that this was my failure. By the time the check came, I was already bracing for round 2. The snorkeling disaster. The next morning, Victoria had arranged a snorkeling excursion, her one contribution to the trip. She bragged about it on the plane, boasting about how she'd found the perfect experience. We arrived at the dock under a cloudless sky, the smell of salt heavy in the air. But instead of being ushered onto a boat, we were greeted with apologetic smiles. "I'm afraid the boat's delayed due to mechanical issues," the guide explained. "It may not be ready until tomorrow." It wasn't anyone's fault. But Victoria turned toward me, her voice sharp enough to slice through the salty air. "Another flawless Amelia plan." My jaw tightened. This wasn't even mine to plan. But the words never left my mouth. Years of practice silenced them. Evelyn chuckled, shaking her head. "You two really need to work on your teamwork." Teamwork. As if this were some joint effort. As if Victoria hadn't just deflected blame again. I bit my tongue until the metallic taste of blood filled my mouth. By the second night, the air between us was already heavy with tension. We sat at another restaurant, ocean view glittering in candlelight. But instead of savoring the meal, Victoria seized the spotlight. First, we miss our dinner reservation because Amelia can't manage to click a confirm button. She raised a finger with exaggerated flair. Then the snorkeling trip is a disaster. What's next? Maybe she'll forget the hotel exists. "That's enough, Victoria," I whispered, my voice trembling. My father's gaze flickered toward me, then back to his wine. He didn't speak. My mother's lips pressed thinner, her silence louder than words. Victoria smirked, leaning back in her chair like a queen on her throne. "Oh, don't get so defensive, Amelia. I'm just pointing out the facts. Someone has to." Her words slid under my skin like splinters. My fingers curled around the edge of the tablecloth, my knuckles white. My chest burned with a rage I had kept buried for years, a volcano I had convinced myself would never erupt. But tonight felt different. Tonight, something inside me snapped. It's hard to explain what it feels like to live in someone else's shadow, except the shadow isn't just cast, it's forced over you like a cage. Growing up, Victoria was always the favorite. She was bubbly, charismatic, magnetic in a way that drew people toward her. Teachers loved her. Friends adored her. Boys in high school lined up just to get a smile. And me? I was quiet, careful, responsible. The one who remembered to pack lunches, who made sure the car had gas, who double-checked deadlines. If something went wrong, all eyes turned to me. When Victoria forgot her homework, she'd cry and say I distracted her. I got grounded. When she dented Dad's car backing out of the driveway, she said I was supposed to guide her. I got blamed. When she failed a test, it was because I didn't help her study enough. My fault again. And the worst part? My parents let it happen. Sometimes I think they preferred it that way. It was easier to believe their golden child was flawless, and that the quieter one, the dependable one, could shoulder the blame. So I did. Until tonight. As Victoria listed my failures like bullet points, as my parents sat complicit in silence, I felt the heat rising in my chest. For 35 years, I had swallowed my voice to keep the peace. But now, sitting under the soft glow of candlelight with Victoria's smirk reflecting in the polished silverware, I realized peace had never been mine to keep. I was done being the scapegoat. And though I hadn't yet found the words, I knew this dinner would be the last time I stayed silent. The night after Victoria's dinner performance, I lay awake in the resort bed, staring at the ceiling fan. Its blades whirred in lazy circles, cutting through the silence that hung between my parents' snores in the adjacent room and Victoria's muffled laughter on the balcony. She was on the phone again. I couldn't hear every word, but her laugh was sharp, high-pitched, almost triumphant. Of course it worked. She fell for it hook, line, and sinker. My stomach nodded. I pressed the pillow over my ears, but fragments slipped through anyway, tiny daggers of sound. Dad didn't even question it. Honestly, it's too easy. I shut my eyes. I told myself it was none of my business, that listening would only hurt, that I'd imagine the smugness in her voice. But deep down I knew Victoria wasn't just lucky. She wasn't just charming. She was orchestrating everything, twisting facts, curating lies, and feeding them to my parents like gospel truth. And I had spent my entire life swallowing the blame she served me. The next morning, I woke early, restless. While my family still slept, I wandered down to the lobby cafe, ordered a cappuccino, and sat with my journal. Writing had always been my private lifeline, a place where I could pour out the thoughts I dared not say aloud. But today, words didn't come. My pen hovered uselessly above the page. That's when my phone buzzed. A notification lit up the screen. I frowned. It wasn't my phone. Victoria's had been left on the table beside my chair, glittery pink case glinting in the morning sun. She must have dropped it while grabbing a towel. Another buzz. A preview flashed. From Danielle, don't forget to delete the email chain about the canceled reservation. If Amelia ever finds it, you're screwed. My blood ran cold. I knew I shouldn't. It wasn't my phone, wasn't my business. But my fingers moved before my conscience could stop them. I opened the message thread. Dozens of texts. Plans, schemes, all designed to protect Victoria's image while pinning mistakes on me. Danielle. So you're blaming Amelia for the dinner? Genius. Victoria. They'll never question it. Mom hates confrontation. Danielle. What if she pushes back? Victoria. She won't. She never does. The words burned into my eyes. Never. She was right. I never did. Until now. I slipped the phone back onto the table just as Victoria strolled into the cafe, sunglasses perched on her head, hair perfectly tousled. She flashed me a sugary smile, oblivious. You're up early, she said, plucking her phone without a second glance. Couldn't sleep, I muttered. She hummed, unconcerned, and sashayed off toward the buffet. My heart hammered. I needed to tell someone. Anyone. That night, I video called Natalie Green, my best friend since college. If there was one person who knew the depth of my family dynamics, it was her. She answered with a wide grin. Hey, stranger. How's paradise? I hesitated, then blurted. It's not paradise. It's hell. Her smile faded. What happened? So I told her everything about the dinner, the snorkeling fiasco, the text messages. Every word spilled out like poison I'd held too long. When I finished, Natalie's eyes were sharp with fury. Amelia, this is gaslighting. She's been manipulating everyone, and you're letting her. I don't know how to stop it, I whispered. My hands shook. If I tell my parents, they'll side with her. They always do. Natalie leaned closer to the screen. Then don't just tell them, show them. Get proof. Screenshots, emails, whatever you can. She's counting on you staying silent. But you don't have to be silent anymore. Her words struck something deep inside me. A spark. A possibility. Maybe I wasn't powerless after all. For the next 2 days, I watched Victoria carefully. I noticed the way she exaggerated stories, sprinkling just enough truth to make them believable. I noticed how Evelyn's eyes softened whenever Victoria played the victim, how Charles's silence reinforced her authority. And I noticed the cracks, like the email Danielle had mentioned, or the way Victoria sometimes slipped, almost bragging about how easily people believed her. I started saving things, photos of her messages, recordings of conversations she had on speakerphone. Each piece was a weapon I tucked away, evidence for the battle I knew was coming. But every step forward came with a wave of guilt. She's still your sister, a voice whispered. Family is family. Yet another voice, sharper, louder, cut through. Family doesn't make you their scapegoat. Family doesn't gaslight you for sport. On the 4th night, we attended a wine-tasting event at the resort. The air smelled of oak barrels and ripe grapes. Soft jazz drifted through the courtyard as glasses clinked in candlelight. It should have been peaceful. But peace never lasted around Victoria. As we settled at our table, she leaned in, her voice low but pointed. Let's just hope Amelia doesn't ruin this one too. My mother chuckled politely. My father smirked behind his glass. Heat surged through me, burning away hesitation. Not this time. I met Victoria's gaze head-on, my voice steady for the first time in years. Actually, I said, loud enough for the table to hear, the only person ruining anything here is you. Silence fell. My parents froze. Victoria blinked, caught off guard. I leaned forward. And when I'm done, everyone's going to know the truth. Her smile faltered, just for a second. And for the first time in my life, I saw it. fear flickering in Victoria's perfect green eyes. The silence at the wine tasting was so sharp it felt like the whole courtyard had frozen. Even the saxophone in the corner seemed to falter. Victoria's smirk faltered, then returned in full force. "Excuse me," she asked sweetly, tilting her head. "Did I hear you correctly? Are you actually accusing me of something, Amelia?" Her tone dripped with faux innocence, the same performance she'd perfected since childhood. But this time I didn't shrink back. "Yes," I said firmly. My voice didn't tremble. "I'm accusing you of lying, of manipulating, of making me the family scapegoat for 35 years. My mother, Evelyn, set down her glass with a sharp clink. "Amelia, this is not the place." "It's exactly the place," I cut in. My chest was on fire, but it wasn't fear. It was resolve. "Because for once, you're going to hear the truth." I pulled out my phone, my hand steady. My camera roll was filled with screenshots, texts between Victoria and Danielle, emails she thought no one would ever see. I opened the thread and slid my phone across the table toward my parents. "Go ahead. Read." Victoria stiffened. "That's private." "No," I said coldly. "That's proof." Charles frowned, picking up the phone. His eyes scanned the screen. He blinked once, then twice. Evelyn leaned in, her lips tightening as the color drained from her face. On the screen, Danielle's words glared back. "Don't forget to delete the email chain about the canceled reservation. If Amelia ever finds it, you're screwed." And Victoria's smug reply, "She won't. She never does." Silence again. I let it stretch. Then I said, softly but firmly, "You've let her gaslight me for years. And I've let it happen. But it ends tonight." Victoria recovered quickly, slipping into her favorite mask, righteous indignation. "This is insane," she cried, clutching at her chest like a wounded saint. "You went through my phone? You violated my privacy? How dare you accuse me of what, exactly? Wanting this family to have a nice trip?" She looked around wildly, appealing to our parents. "Mom, Dad, you're not really buying this, are you?" Evelyn's lips pursed, torn between doubt and instinct. Charles rubbed his temples, already weary. "Amelia," he muttered, "even if she sent a few questionable messages, this doesn't change the fact that you're always so difficult." There it was. The old refrain. The role they'd shoved me into since childhood. But this time I didn't swallow it. "No, Dad," I said quietly but clearly. "I'm not difficult. I'm just the only one who tells the truth." The words tumbled out before I could stop them. Years of swallowed pain. Years of silence, breaking free all at once. Do you have any idea what it feels like to be blamed for everything? To carry the weight of mistakes I didn't make? When Victoria forgot her homework, I was grounded. When she dented the car, I got screamed at. When she failed a test, you told me I should have helped more. And you let her cry and charm her way out of every consequence while I paid the price. My voice cracked, but I pushed through. I have spent my whole life being the family scapegoat. And you, both of you, let it happen because it was easier to believe Victoria was perfect than to admit she could be wrong. The courtyard blurred with tears, but I refused to look away. Evelyn flinched. Charles's jaw tightened. Victoria's smirk had vanished entirely. For the first time in decades, they didn't look at me with dismissal. They looked at me with shock. Victoria slammed her hand against the table. "You're making me out to be some kind of villain," she snapped. "If the shoe fits," I said flatly. Her eyes flashed. "You're just jealous. You always have been. You hate that people like me more, that Mom and Dad see how special I am. That's what this is really about, isn't it?" "No," I whispered. My voice was calm, steady. "This is about survival. I'm done carrying your sins. I'm done letting you paint me as the problem. From now on, I won't play your scapegoat. Not for you. Not for anyone." The words settled like stones dropped into still water. Victoria's face flushed crimson. She opened her mouth, then shut it again. For once, she had no comeback. Evelyn broke the silence. "Amelia, maybe we should talk about this later, when emotions aren't so high." "No, Mom," I said firmly. We've been postponing this conversation my entire life. Later never comes. The truth is here. Tonight. Charles looked between us, weariness etched deep in his features. He wasn't siding with me, not openly. But he wasn't defending Victoria either. And that in itself was new. Victoria pushed back from the table, her chair scraping against the stone floor. "You're pathetic," she spat, her voice shaking. "And you'll regret this." She stormed off, heels clicking like gunfire. I sat back, exhaling slowly. My hands trembled under the table, but my chest felt lighter. For the first time in my life, I had spoken. I wasn't sure what would happen next. I wasn't sure if my parents would ever truly see me. But I knew one thing. I would never go back to silence. The rest of the night passed in fractured murmurs. My parents avoided eye contact, sipping wine as though it could wash down decades of dysfunction. But I barely noticed. I was done waiting for their approval, done begging for their love. When I returned to my room, I called Natalie again. Her face lit up the screen. "Well, I did it," I whispered. "I told them everything. I showed them proof. I didn't back down." Natalie grinned, eyes shining. "Amelia, I'm so proud of you." For the first time in 35 years, I felt proud of myself too. And I knew this was just the beginning. The morning after the confrontation, the Ross family suite was quiet. Too quiet. The tension was thick as humidity, pressing against the walls, clinging to every breath. Victoria sat at the table in a silk robe, sipping coffee with exaggerated elegance. Her eyes were swollen, though whether from real tears or a practice performance, I couldn't tell. My parents hovered around her like bodyguards, Evelyn rubbing her shoulder, Charles sighing heavily as though he were the victim in all this. I stepped into the room, and 3 pairs of eyes swung toward me. "Good morning," I said evenly. Evelyn's lips thinned. "Amelia, perhaps we should clear the air. Your sister has been very upset." I almost laughed. Upset? After decades of blaming me, of watching me bear the weight of her lies, she was upset? "Of course she's upset," I said calmly. For once, she got caught. Victoria slammed her mug down, coffee sloshing over the rim. "You ruined this trip. Do you realize that? Mom and Dad came here for family time, and you turned it into some vendetta against me." My jaw tightened. "No, Victoria. You ruined this trip the moment you decided I'd be your scapegoat again. The difference is, I didn't let you get away with it this time." Charles rubbed his forehead. "Do you two ever hear yourselves? You're both acting like children." "Children?" I repeated softly. "Dad, I've been the adult in this family since I was 12. And you know it." Silence followed, thick and heavy. I sat down across from them, folding my hands. My heart was pounding, but my voice was steady. "I need you all to understand something," I said. "I'm done playing this role. I won't be your scapegoat anymore. If something goes wrong, don't look at me. If Victoria stumbles, don't expect me to catch her. I will not carry her mistakes, or yours, on my back any longer." Evelyn's brows furrowed. "Amelia, you can't just—" "Yes, I can." My voice sharpened. "Because it's killing me. Do you understand that? 35 years of being blamed, dismissed, gaslit. It's taken everything from me. My confidence, my peace, my sense of self. And I'm done giving it." Victoria snorted. So dramatic. I met her gaze. "No, Victoria. What's dramatic is faking messages with your friend to set me up. What's dramatic is manipulating Mom and Dad into thinking I'm the problem. I'm simply telling the truth." For once, she looked away first. Later that day, I escaped to the beach. The waves were wild, foaming and crashing as though the ocean itself understood the chaos inside me. I called Natalie, holding my phone against the wind. "You should have seen their faces," I told her, describing the standoff. It was like I spoke a language they'd never heard before. "Because you did," she said gently. "You finally spoke your truth. They may never want to hear it, Amelia, but that doesn't make it less true." Tears stung my eyes. What if I lose them for good? Then you lose people who never really valued you in the first place, Natalie said firmly. Family isn't about blood. It's about love. And love doesn't scapegoat. Her words sank deep, soothing and sharp all at once. For years, I had clung to the hope that if I just tried harder, if I just swallowed more, gave more, stayed quiet longer, my parents would see me. But maybe they never would. And maybe that was okay. On our final night at the resort, we sat together for one last dinner. The tension was palpable, thick enough to choke on. Victoria kept her eyes glued to her plate. Evelyn tried to make small talk about the wine, about the view, about anything but the elephant sitting between us. Charles muttered about catching our flight in the morning. Finally, Evelyn said, "Amelia, we don't want to fight. Can we just move past this?" I set down my fork, my hands trembling slightly.
No, Mom.
We can't. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? I mean, moving past it would mean pretending nothing happened. Pretending I didn't spend my life carrying everyone's blame. Pretending Victoria hasn't manipulated you for decades. Pretending I'm okay with being invisible. And I'm not. Victoria rolled her eyes. Here we go again. I cut her off, my voice firm.
No.
Here I go. Standing up. Drawing the line. I looked at my parents. If you want me in your life, it has to be different. I won't tolerate being scapegoated anymore. I won't sit quietly while she lies. I deserve respect. And if I don't get it, then I'll walk away. The words hung there, sharp and final. For once, no one had a response. The next morning, I wheeled my suitcase out of the hotel, the ocean wind tugging at my hair. My parents trailed behind, Victoria muttering under her breath, but I didn't care. I wasn't leaving in shame this time. I was leaving with power. As the taxi pulled away, I looked out the window at the waves crashing against the shore. The same waves that had witnessed my silence now bore witness to my freedom. Natalie's words echoed in my mind. Family isn't about blood. It's about love. And for the first time in my life, I believed it. I didn't know what the future would hold. Maybe my parents would change. Maybe they wouldn't. Maybe Victoria would try again. But one thing was certain. I was no longer the scapegoat. I was Amelia Ross. And I was free. And with that, our story comes to an end, but the real story begins with your thoughts. What would you do if you were in this situation? Let me know in the comments.